Hi, everyone. Kumar Datatran here with Agile Meridian, and I am pleased to welcome a guest on our show, Olivia Atkin. She's a dynamic and inspirational speaker, international speaker. She's built a career as an author, entrepreneur, and a motivational speaker. And I personally have been motivated by my talks with her. Personally, she's a founder of Achieving Success LLC, a platform to empower personal growth through coaching, speaking engagements, and educational resources. And she amplifies her message of empowerment through her book, Achieving Success in Career Development. And there's more in her popular podcast, Achieving Success with Olivia Atkin. And so pleased to speak with Olivia today, and I'm sure she's going to share a wealth of her insights with all of us, including me. So with that, welcome, Olivia.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Yes, it's a pleasure to have you on our show. So usually when we talk about topics that are in the business world, the agile space, the agile lean, and so on and so forth. And so having a guest such as you, the things that we do, that I do, looking at it from a different perspective. Agile is all about achieving success from a business standpoint, and you're helping people achieve success personally, probably through many of the same techniques and the same mindsets that we employ or we help with our coaching clients employ. So I think it would be this is going to be a fascinating talk. So Olivia, you founded your company to empower others to reach their full potential. What was the inspiration behind that?
So the inspiration behind the company Achieving Success LLC, as well as my podcast that hits its 1-year anniversary, November 1st, 2023, is super exciting, was because throughout the many different careers and hats I've worn, whether it was working in professional sports or the different certifications or degrees I have, having one in every business area, I've seen what a lot of the industries look like. A lot of the young professionals or people who end up transferring into an industry think a job or a role might look like, and that ladder that our societal norms have started to ingrain in us of what the steps will look like. And a lot of conversations were being had about those misconceptions. And a lot of young individuals, especially, were going into careers thinking it was one way, or their progression would look one way, and what they identified as success was this. And in reality, in talking to so many people who have worked in different industries and have had different life, it does change. It does look different. So when I founded my company and the podcast, it was really on the aspect of, let's pull back the curtain. Let's say it's okay to go down your own path. And let's really have individuals tell their stories of what it was like, how they got through those experiences. We do that through the show, and then through my business overall, it's really helping set you up for what you look as success, or ways through, for example, podcasting, that you can tell your story, share those lessons you've had. And if you have a podcast like this, sometimes it's how can you grow it to get your message out there to more people as well.
That's great. So your company, you found it really to help people on their journey, on their path. And the medium you chose is a podcast, and of course your book, to help people sort of figure out their journey, figure out their path, because it's not linear.
No.
Right? I will say that, for me personally, my path hasn't been linear either. I mean, I started as a restaurant manager. Actually, I tended bar, I waited tables, and ran restaurants after that. Became a manager, GM, district manager, and so on and so forth. And somehow I ended up here, right, running a company, helping clients on their agile and lean journeys, helping companies become more efficient and become a better, more engaging place for their employees. And so my path hasn't been linear. What do you say to young people entering the workforce that come to you for coaching?
The number one thing I say to start off the bat is take the idea that you're going to enter a company or a job and stay there your whole career.
Hmm.
You do not have to get out of your head that if other people, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's mentors saying, okay, whatever you pick today is going to define the rest of your career. No, that's not true. We see on average now individuals pivoting industries or career paths on average 5 times in their profession.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really, it's more unspoken and people are finding their voice to really speak about it more and more. But that's my number one thing is like, do not think today defines the rest of your career or your personal experiences. It is okay to change your mind. But in doing that, set yourself up with tools and skill sets that you can transfer into other industries. Figure out what you're really good at, what you're passionate about, those skill sets you might want to learn more about, while also honing in skills you're good at that can be transferable, and identify how they can be transferable as well.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and it's timely too, especially for people in my professions: agile coaches, scrum masters, product owners. We are going through a bit of a disruption, if you will, in the industry right now as companies pivot away from employing agile coaches and moving away from the scrum master role, and putting more money into product teams that actually develop the products. And so we're finding that it's much harder for people to get work, independents out there that have been helping clients on their transformation. It's much harder than it was, a few years ago today. And so what you're saying is really very valuable. It's maybe it's for us, and I would love your comment on this. It's to shed the title, whatever it is that we did, and focus on the skills that we use to help our clients, get more efficient, or make more money on the top line or the bottom line, or create more engaging environments for their employees. Focus on those skills and promote those skills to future employers that might need those types of services. What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree. I think it's really about the skill sets that we all have. What is your superpower? So what is the thing that sets you apart that you are really good at, and identify that and then lean into that. I also think it's very okay to pivot sometimes what your consulting looks like. Just because you've grown a reputation of this is what I do, this is how I do it within a certain market, doesn't mean you can't change that. You can't grow it. You can't. You and I have had this conversation within podcasting. Sometimes have the idea that when they start, they have to become very niche. Mm-hmm. They have to be niche. They have to talk about a certain thing, certain types of audiences in. But becoming so niche, like in a business, you can end up turning away prospective clients that might not fit that round hole exactly. They might be a little square, but they fit. And so sometimes it's widening your niche and going, hey, this can work in this industry as well. This can look a little different, and we can still grow and we can still bring information to our clients. It's just identifying what that might look like and where your superpower lies within that.
That's excellent. Excellent advice. So you wrote a book a while back, right? So Achieving Success in Career Development. What key lessons or advice, maybe a few snippets, do you share in that book that you'd like to share with the audience here today?
So the book covers everything from resumes and cover letters with templates to different professional organizations that are out there, continuous education, and everything in between. I think one of the big snippets that, especially if you're already in your career, that individuals would or should think about, that a lot of times they don't, is the aspect of continuous education growth. That does not mean you have to go back to college and get another degree. That does not mean you have to go, whatever that might look like. It can be joining a professional organization, learning all the professional organizations that are out there within your industry, or that might align with some of the things you're passionate about that you can use to network, potential job opportunities, learning some of those new skills. The other aspect is that goes hand in hand with that is the aspect of certification. I talk a lot. I go into detail on why certifications are important, as well as different certifications you can get based on what industry you are in, right? Green Belt Six Sigma can be one of them. Tableau is a software system that a lot of companies are starting to integrate. So if you're looking for a new job or a new skill set, Tableau is something that you can go out, understand through their online course, and have that knowledge. And so it's little things like that that you can learn and pick up on that I dive into the book that a lot of career development books don't always dive into. And I make it pretty straightforward. No chapters more than 10 pages. And it really gives you for example, the resume. What is a resume? Why is a resume important? Things to think about while writing your resume. And then the outline of different templates you could use based on where you are. What is an interview? What kind of outfits to wear to an interview? How to prep for your interview? All the different aspects. And that's really what the book is there for. It can be for that one-off where you need to brush up on how to write your resume, and you can just go to that chapter. Or it can be, hey, I'm thinking about career growth. What are some of the things I might not know about that are out there?
Right. That's excellent. So this sounds like the book is a real resource that you can pick up at any time. It's not just read it and put on the shelf, but it's something that you can use as a resource, almost like a workbook. Just because people, to your point, are changing jobs much more frequently than they ever have in the past. My son, who is 28 now, 20. I can't believe he's 28. He's on his fourth job already since college, right? So he's hopped around quite a bit, and each time he's learned, to your point, continuous learning, continuous education, and he's applied that learning to secure his next position. Continuous learning is also something we talk about a lot in the Agile community, that it's sort of the currency for an organization to stay relevant and stay competitive in this rapidly changing environment that we find ourselves in, right? With all the disruptions and all the changes that are out there. You got COVID and you got AI and all of these things out there. And so what we try to help our clients focus is on the power of knowledge and learning for the workforce and the ability to share that knowledge and learning inside of the organization. Can you comment on that? And if you've had similar insights?
I think, yes, I definitely could comment on it. For me, I think creating processes and procedures are key to the success and growth in any organization. So sharing those resources, especially within smaller businesses, a lot of times I hear we're growing, right? My business is a year old. All my time and energy has been creating what people would like, then selling it and trying to bring in revenue. And then the business picked up, and then all my focus went there, and then trying to bring new people in. Well, when you bring new people in, what sometimes ends up happening is you're so quick to teach them because you feel like they need to pick up work, right, where things are dropping off, but it never gets written down. And so over time, you lose those processes and procedures. There can become gaps in what's being provided or not to the standard when you created your business you thought. And so in reality, writing down the steps, even as small, I call it the steps for dummies. If you hit a certain button on your screen, you should be telling me exactly where I need to hit.
Right.
You got to have the expectation that no matter who's walking in the door, they can pick it up and do the task. And I think doing that even in a beginning of the business can be so impactful to the long term of your business as well. And it goes back to the idea of creating that communication and resources that individuals need. Because the more tasks someone does and then writes them down, if they leave, right? We saw it with COVID. If people got really sick for a while, then you're not dead in the water. Someone can pick it up and fill that gap.
Absolutely. I agree. The value of documentation, and there is value in documentation, can be immense, right? Having procedures documented and updating those documented procedures as things change, which they inevitably will. And so if we do a lot of business coaching, I'm sure you do as well. And the power of that is really immeasurable. You can't really survive without it. And it has a profound impact on whether you're running the business or you're sort of in the business, you're in the weeds because you have to be, or if you can actually step away and run the business, in the business or on the business, kind of. That kind of mentality is really critical to establish these procedures and then modify them, right? Adapt to the changing conditions and adapt to a changing workforce. I'm going to take another tack here. Your podcast, Achieving Success with Olivia Atkin, it reaches a global audience, right? What types of topics and guests do you feature on your podcast?
So my podcast, Achieving Success with Olivia Atkin, is currently a top 5% most listened to podcast in the world.
That's awesome.
Yes. So when we talk about global reach, we are actively 21 countries that reach our global network that listen on a regular basis. And so the types of guests I get on my show really range. The whole purpose of the show was to really bring real conversations and real people's stories to life in that journey. So we will have celebrities, current or former pro athletes, entrepreneurs, or employees on to discuss what success means and looks like to them today, as well as their journey in getting there, both personally and professionally, and how maybe some of that professional side goes into our personal side and how that personal side goes into our professional side. Excellent.
So just a curious question, since I fancy myself a podcaster, nowhere near what you're doing. I don't even know what the stats are in terms of the podcast, what the reach is. How do you book your guests? Just curious.
So for me, and my process is I'm always open to communication, sitting down and networking with someone. If someone everyone who's been a guest on my show, even if I've known them prior to the show going live, gets a vetting session. So I look at things like, are we going to be able to hold the conversation? What kind of things are you willing to talk about? What are you passionate about? Like, where are all those things align and where does it sit? And then where the show sits now too is we book out about 6 months in advance. So because the show only releases once a week, we schedule episodes about 4 months out. I have enough guests realistically. If I just took everyone and did not strategically put anyone, I joke. I'm like, I will never put 4 accountants episodes in 1 month. But if I took everyone off the list, I could get me 6 months, 7 months through. But we piecemeal it and I strategically place everyone. So anytime I have a conversation with someone, I'm sitting there listening, seeing if, okay, is there potential down the road to have them on? What are they doing? What are they passionate about? And do those vetting calls. And it also goes into what I do some of my consulting on within the podcast world is getting people on the right podcasts or getting individuals who are hosts, guests for their show, or a mix of both. It's really identifying what is the match. So it might not be a match for my show now, but as I'm talking to you, I get a client who's a podcast host, I might be like, okay, this person's a fit. Personality wise, they're a fit. What they're willing to talk about, where their passions are and where their voice inflections are, things like that. It's going to align. And vice versa, as I talk to podcast hosts and I get clients who want to get on podcasts, whether it's to tell their story, to build their community, helping, maybe tell what they're passionate about now and what they're doing professionally. I help find the right shows to do that and do the vetting on the opposite end with a host to actually make sure it aligns. So the process that I've done to grow my show is really what I use to also help people. Either people who want to be guests get on the right shows, but then also hosts get the right guests for their shows.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. It sounds like what you do is you're always looking for potential guests, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously looking to see the people that you meet through your consulting practice, your coaching practice, or your podcasting practice as you're advising them. Would they be a good guest on your show? And so it becomes part of your routine. And that's really interesting. For me, I don't do that. I probably should think about doing that kind of thing. It's who would fit the show here? So great advice. So your bio mentions innovation, dedication, relentless pursuit of excellence, and just meeting you. I've known you now for a few months, and I've seen your podcast. I saw your TED talk the other day. You have, it seems like boundless energy. You never run out of it. You're always doing something. You're getting a new degree, or you're advising this, or you're speaking here or speaking there. Where does this motivation come from?
It comes from, I think, a level of understanding that no matter where you are in life, things can come up on whether it's an opportunity or a struggle. And it's really about how you handle that can really grow you. So for me, when I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I no longer have seizures, but in those years, those are core years of your life. I went from a competitive swimmer training for the Junior Olympics and competing at 9 years old against people who were 15, 18 and beating them and doing good in school to what is epilepsy? And at the time I had grand mal seizures. So think about, no foaming at the mouth, but shaking and things like that. How do you explain that to a 9-year-old? Right? Yeah. How do you explain that to their friends of like, no, it's okay. Like it happens. And I had a rare form and I was able to grow out of them through understanding my body. But I remember after being diagnosed, a lot of the medications weren't working and this and that. And my first neurologist said to my parents, who I'm lucky enough knew to have the conversation with me in the room, and we can all agree that we were not going to just take that opinion, but they were like, give her like 8 months max, and I don't think she could be in a regular classroom anymore.
Wow.
And I really learned at that moment the power of your voice, and how at any moment everything you've known can be stripped away from you. It doesn't matter where you come from at life. It doesn't matter if from the outside everything looks good. You don't know what's struggling. And so throughout my growth as a teenager, a college student, and beyond, it's always making people aware that just because it looks pretty on the outside does not mean we all don't have struggles, and what those struggles might look like, and then providing the resources to really get through that. And I think at the end of the day, no matter how long of a day I've worked, sometimes it's a 3 a.m. to a 10 p.m. day of straight through, or okay, now I got to jump on an airplane to go give a talk somewhere, but then I have client calls after, like that juggle. I always remind myself that I'm sharing a message and giving skill sets to individuals who need them, or might not be looking at something one way, and it might change their perspective. You never know how one action is going to impact another individual. So I'm always doing things to better myself, grow my knowledge and experiences, and then helping others do that as well.
That's really an amazing story, and it explains your outlook and your drive and your motivation. Although I think that may be just unique to you. I don't know this personally, but it seems like you could go either way, surviving trauma like that in your childhood, and in your case, you chose to persevere and make every moment count. And that's been your message, right? In your podcast and your book and all the things you have accomplished already in life. So that's really quite an inspiring story. Thank you for sharing that. We're getting about to the end of our time here together. So I'm going to ask, a sort of a closing question, and we'll see where it goes after that. So your success speaks for herself. You're an author, entrepreneur. What advice would you give others looking to launch a new career, launch a business, things like that?
The number one thing I have learned in the many different, from professional sports to supply chain to being an entrepreneur, is just because it's supposed to be done a certain way and people tell you this is the way to do it, if you want to do it differently and you're okay to stand by those decisions, then do it.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself. And again, just because everything has been done one way doesn't mean it can't be done another.
That's great advice, and actually very similar to what we what we say to our clients as agile coaches. We are coaches, just business coaches. We are very much about asking the question why. Not in a rude or malicious way. It's when people say in a client location, well, that's just how we've always done things, and that carries a lot of weight because it's part of the culture, right? Part of how they've always done it. That's the way they do it, and they've never questioned why they do it that way, or if there's a better way to do it, or whatever it might be. And so that's an interesting and insightful take, Olivia. And I suspect you could be a very good lean or agile coach if you wanted to be. You probably are. You probably do that anyway with your clients. Anything I didn't ask that you'd like to share?
I think you covered all aspects. The only thing I really would tell people as well is look at the conversation and the real conversation you and I got to have today. Podcasting is such a power in it too, of being able to have authentic, real conversation on so many different levels. So if someone's thinking about podcasting or has questions about podcasting, always feel free to reach out to me, because I'm always here to help people, from if they want to start a show, have a show, or want to be guests on shows, of really what that journey is like and working with them to get through it as well.
Absolutely. And I will post your information in the show notes for this podcast, and so people can reach out to you and go find your book. I'm going to do that myself. And thank you so much again for coming on the show, and hope to see you soon, maybe on your show.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. It's been a pleasure. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.